Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Austin Materials Marketplace's first industry-specific sector Google Hangout. Just some general logistics. We are live, so you're listening to us live and seeing us live on video. You can ask questions at any time. If you are logged into the Google Plus page, you should see a Q&A app that will allow you to ask questions at any time. And for future reference, this is being recorded and will be posted on the Austin Materials Marketplace website, which is austinmaterialsmarketplace.org. So now you should see our video feed live. So today we'll be focusing in on Austin and Travis County's growing brewery industry. For those that are just now hearing about the Austin Materials Marketplace, we're a new program sponsored by the City of Austin that brings together businesses of all sizes and entrepreneurs to create closed-loop systems in which one company's waste is another company's raw material. This type of industrial and commercial level waste diversion is integral to helping our city-wide getting to zero waste by 2040. Today I'm joined by my colleague, Ray He. He's our resident materials expert, and he's going to be answering some questions about the brewing industry. We're going to be looking at the types of waste streams that breweries produce and the potential diversion and reuse opportunities that the Austin Materials Marketplace is looking to create. So looking at the state of the brewing industry in Austin. So the brewing industry in Austin is one of the fastest growing industries in the area. We have 22 independent breweries at our last count, but that number seems to be growing every day. After some state legislative changes in 2013, that largely overhauled previous restrictions on a small brewery's ability to distribute their products to retailers, the industry has really had the opportunity to explode. The Texas Craft Brewers Guild has predicted that statewide, this growing industry has potential to generate $5.6 billion and 52,000 new jobs by 2020, which is huge. All this growth, though, means more waste. And the brewing industry is producing a few pretty unique and interesting waste types, which we'll be looking at today. Most notably, this is large amounts of spent grains, yeast, and mylar packaging. So let's start by looking at spent grain. Most of us know that grain is a primary ingredient in beer, but sometimes it's a bit shocking to realize just how much of this material it takes to keep our fridges at home well stocked. The spent grain that we're looking at consists primarily of grain husks, fragments of the endosperm, and pericarp. So it's all organic material. A small/medium-sized brewery generates roughly 400 gallons of spent grain per week, which is quite a bit, especially when you start thinking of that in the context of all 22 Austin breweries. This byproduct has a rather high water content, sometimes upwards to 60 to 70%, but it can be dried down, and depending on your processes at the brewery, it can be more or less. It really varies a bit. The brewing process removes most of the sugar from the grain, but there's still a lot of protein, fiber, and carbohydrates left over. So what comes next then? So after the brewery gets done with this material, what are some ideas and opportunities for giving spent grains another life and keeping them out of the landfills?
Yeah, so Daniel, it's incredibly important to realize that spent grain is an organic material. So when you landfill it, it contributes to the emission of greenhouse gas, methane, which is about 25 times the global warming potential than the CO2. So we just have to keep in mind that it's important to keep that thing out of our landfill, to reuse it, recycle it in any way we can. And luckily, we are never short of the reuse opportunity for this material. So many breweries today send their spent grain to local farmers to feed cattle and other animals like pigs, sheep, and goats. So we think this is a pretty valid reuse of the material, as it provides low-cost disposal alternative for the breweries and low-cost feedstock for the farmers. But depending on how it is done, it isn't necessarily the most efficient or ecologically beneficial reuse of this material. So spent grain are bulky and depends on different brewing processes. This may be heavily saturated with water. So if there is an ecological impact through the carbon emission of the transportation when it comes to the brewery, when transporting them from a brewery to a farm. So alternatively, spent grain can also be a good feedstock for commercial composting operations, and it can be used as nutrient-rich growing base for commercial mushroom production. So yes, and it's a perfect ingredient in the production of human and animal food like bread and bars and biscuits. For example, the breweries in San Diego, several of them really sent their spent grain to David Crane, a home brewer whose small company makes doggy beer bones out of the beer left over, mixed with peanut butter, barley flour, eggs, and water. So they're sold in breweries and pet stores nationwide and on the internet as well. So apart from that, we also know that the spent grains can also be used as brick components to add into the brick production and in the paper production as well, and also as absorbent microbe growing substrate, etc. So what we want to emphasize here is that, you know, coming out of the breweries, it's not only the beer. There are a lot of other stuff. So there are a lot of reuse alternatives that has a lot of opportunities for innovation, and that's where we think the Austin Materials Marketplace can come into the play and bring business of different sizes, different business and entrepreneurs from different sectors to really work on those great opportunities.
That's great, Ray. Thanks so much for running through that. The part about making the dog biscuits is a really interesting business opportunity, especially in one where, as we see out in San Diego, an entrepreneur could easily come in and get that ball rolling. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So moving on to another rather similar byproduct. Let's take a look at yeast. So a small to medium-sized brewery generates roughly 300 gallons per week. Similar to spent grain, this slurry has a very high water content, but it can also be harvested and dried, so it can take many different forms. And also, like spent grain, this yeast extract has a really high nutritional value, and can be classified as a very strong organic matter. So Ray, what opportunities are out there to work with brewery yeast and to deal with brewery yeast?
Yeah, absolutely, Daniel. So yeast, when you talk about yeast, it's actually incredibly old reuse case. So if you have ever seen or consumed Marmite, which is a kind of a weird tasting food. That
it's like a spread that you can
definitely.
It's a European thing, right?
Yeah, it's definitely. So it really dated back to the early 1900s. So at that time, the people first realized that this thing can be used to produce a Marmite. So it really dated really all the way back to the early 1980s or maybe late 1800s. So, but not a lot of people here in the U.S. who taste that, but it's definitely an interesting opportunity that when people are considering reuse the yeast, it's a viable choice. And similar to spent grain, brewery yeast can also be used as a fertilizer in the food production, and it's also be used as like an animal feed, like the poultry feed. And just earlier this morning, we were in a call with Odell, a brewery in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we were talking about their reuse practices. And they mentioned that they're currently sending their spent grain and together with their yeast slurry to a local farmer. But they really didn't really like the idea of sending yeast slurry to the farmer as the fertilizer soil amendment that much. So we also learned that currently they're working with the city of Fort Collins to send their yeast slurry to a local wastewater treatment plant to as the microbacteria growing substrate to replace some of the chemicals that are used in that process. So they're still looking at the acceptable quantities, but this will be a very, very beneficial reuse for this material, and it remains for us to explore how to best carry out that opportunity.
Great. Yeah, that was a really, really interesting case for us to hear about and learn about. The folks at Odell are even looking at the possibility of bringing in other brewers in Fort Collins to work with the city in a similar way, if they can accept that quantity. So we'll certainly be working on that opportunity as we evolve in this project. So those are two major byproducts coming out of the beer making process itself. But we also wanted to look at some of the byproducts, the waste products coming out of the industry. And one of these is actually a packaging product that's rather interesting. So as you probably know, one of the major components in beer is hops. And these hops are currently being shipped from producers to breweries all around the world using primarily a layered mylar bag. So mylar is a form of polyester resin. It's used to make heat-resistant plastic films and sheets. And I'll show a picture of this here on my screen so you can look at that. It's the shiny material that I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's used in the hop shipping application because it's completely opaque, which protects the hops from exposure to sunlight. It's very durable, and it forms a very tight oxygen-free seal, which protects the hops from oxidation, and it also helps to effectively cool the hops when stored under refrigeration. So if we look at some of the current stats in Austin, so a small to medium-sized brewery is capable of generating around 50 pounds of mylar bags per month, which, depending on how you look at it, can seem like a relatively small quantity. But again, if you're thinking about aggregating this through the whole industry in Austin, that could grow to a rather sizable amount. Some of the larger breweries in the US collect and recycle their mylar bags. However, for smaller operations, again, quantity and access to these services may be an issue. And I think that we can look at mylar as kind of a problematic material, but also one where there's a lot of opportunity for innovation. Ray, can you talk through a few more of the details about mylar?
Yeah, absolutely. As you just mentioned, mylar bag is kind of like the problematic material faced by a lot of breweries, the big ones and smaller ones for sure. So I think right now a lot of the breweries are sending the mylar bags to the landfill, which is not what we're encouraging to do here. So this is not because it's not recyclable. It's just that there is no local processor or recycler to collect it. So if it could be, so we were thinking if we could aggregate all the mylar bags from all those 22 or more breweries, smaller mid-sized breweries in Austin, that could be a viable amount for a transportation to a local, to a nearby recycler. So that's that's where the Austin Material Marketplace coming to the play, is to help bring all the breweries in Austin together to aggregate the material. Perhaps we can attract a local processor to the Central Texas, or create an opportunity for a few businesses to reprocess mylar bags into raw material for other products. So, we are looking at the material itself. We are talking about here in AMM, Austin Material Marketplace, we're not only talking about recycling. We really want to push beyond that. So when people are dealing with the mylar bag these days, they're just thinking about, okay, is there a recycler near me so I can send my mylar bags to? But really, when we are here talking about material reuse, it's far beyond recycling. So we want to reuse at its maximum potential, at its highest value. So we first have to understand what are the characteristics, the properties of the material when we're talking about mylar bags. So they're usually, reflective of light, of solar radiation. They're waterproof. They're heat insulating materials. If you're considering these characteristics, there are a whole range of opportunities and products you can think of. So when you're talking about waterproof, maybe we think about raincoats and umbrellas, and maybe you don't need that much in Austin. But I'm just thinking these are the things that are possible. When you're talking about reflective, how about some shiny artwork? Here in Austin, we have the Contemporary Austin, that art museum, art school. In the project already, there are tons of innovative artists and art students who can definitely make use of that stuff, I'm pretty sure. And also, like in the photography studio, people use reflective, the reflector to bounce the light around. So the mylar bag can be the perfect material for that. And when we're talking about heat insulating characteristic, how about some mylar blanket to keep people warm? How about, so have you ever seen those shopping bags with the silver shiny interior that keeps stuff warm or cold? Mylar is that perfect material for doing that. So there is not a case study we can find right now of doing those innovative stuff, but that doesn't mean those are not possible. I think just to tap into the innovative and artistic entrepreneurial spirit of Austin, I think those are the great new business opportunities here in Austin. I think it's exactly what AMM, Austin Material Marketplace, is trying to facilitate and promote.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some really great inspiration, right? And definitely an opportunity to create some business opportunities out of this stuff. So again, just a reminder here. If you have any questions, you should see a Q&A box that you can use. And if you send us your questions, we should be able to address those live on the air. But otherwise, you can always contact us via email or by phone after the broadcast, and we're happy to chat. So it sounds like there's certainly a lot of work to be done to move the brewing industry towards a more sustainable future, where sustainable waste diversion practices are the standard. And then there's, like you said, Ray, there's also a lot of opportunity to develop new products out of some of this stuff. As we mentioned before, and you can see on the screen here, the brewing industry is very widely distributed and well established in Austin. You're looking at a map of probably most of the breweries in Austin. I'm not too sure how up to date this is, but as you can see, there's clearly quite a few. So our goal here, as Ray said, is really to shift our thinking, to see that the materials that are coming out of our facilities are oftentimes more than just the primary product of what we're trying to make.
Absolutely.
And so through the Austin Materials Marketplace, we're excited about bringing together all of these independent brewers. We have 2 on board right now, and we're certainly pursuing all of the others. And we want to bring these independent brewers together. The industry is known for its creativity. It's known for its entrepreneurial spirit. It's known for its commitment to community. We really just want to bring these thinkers together to rethink our idea of waste and solve some of these diversion challenges. So to get involved, you can visit us on our website at austinmaterialsmarketplace.org. There's a quick form on there to get in contact with us. And all of our contact information is on there as well. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. We're at AMM Social. And then we're also on Facebook under the same name, AMM Social. A couple of events coming up on Friday at the same time, starting at noon. We'll be doing a similar sector hangout with the medical device industry, which is going to be a really interesting one because there's some very cool and also very challenging yet very opportunistic materials coming out of that industry. Yeah. And then next week on November 19th is our first Austin Materials Marketplace. So that'll be a half-day meeting of facilitated sessions designed, again, to doing here. So look at some of these materials and try to think creatively about reuse opportunities. Yeah. So thanks so much for watching, and we hope to be in touch with you all soon.
Yep.
And if you don't come up with a good business opportunity for that mylar, Ray and I might be going into business soon to do something with all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All
Bye-bye.
right. See ya.